Presidential candidate and Kentucky Senator Rand Paul. So you heard Secretary Clinton. What did you think?
You know, I thought one of the most interesting parts of the discussion was about the refugee crisis. And I think, frankly, that Hillary Clinton bears some of the responsibility for the crisis. Thomas Friedman wrote an op-ed about a couple weeks ago, saying that basically Iran and Saudi Arabia have been arsonists, throwing gasoline on the flames there. But in a way, so is Hillary Clinton's policy of putting arms into that situation. They say, oh, we're going to give them to the good people. But it really wasn't possible, I think, to find the good people. And so many of the people were al-Qaeda, al-Nusra, and some of these people became ISIS. So it was really a bad idea, and continues to be a bad idea, to arm the allies of ISIS, to arm the allies of al-Qaeda.
So what would you do in this situation?
Well, you know, you had bad people on both sides. I mean, Assad is a person who gassed his own people, but on the other side, you have really the remnants of the people who attacked us, or people with a similar ideology to al-Qaeda who attacked us. So really arming either of the sides was a mistake. But there are people caught in the middle. There are 2 million Christians in Syria, and they're caught in the middle. And if you ask them who they would rather have, Assad or ISIS, they'll all tell you Assad. And even though as bad as he is, Christians feel a little safer under Assad than they do under ISIS. But we shouldn't do anything to push back Assad or to bomb Assad or to defeat Assad, because really what that does is it opens a space for ISIS.
What did you think about the Secretary's idea of 65,000 Syrian refugees coming into the United States?
You know, my first thought is that, you know, some of the arsonists should accept some of the refugees. Saudi Arabia doesn't appear to be willing to take any. Iran should be taking some. So if they're Shiite Muslims and Saudi Arabia won't take them, why would not Iran want to accept them? And these are the people who have been stoking the flames over there. Bahrain, Qatar, all the people pouring arms into there, all these rich sheikdoms, why aren't they taking refugees?
What about the argument that the United States, when it does this kind of thing, takes in refugees and plays a leading role in the world, as it did after the Vietnam War with the Vietnam boat people, that's a way in which, with soft power, the United States gets out of situations it finds it's in that are more warlike, which is...
Well, I have a great deal of sympathy, obviously, for the people who are displaced, and you can't see the pictures of that, you know, young boy that drowned over there and not have a great deal of sympathy. There are private groups trying to bring people over here. There's a Project Nazarene trying to bring Christians out of the Middle East and bring them to our country. But I think we do have to be a little bit wary. I mean, we brought 65,000 from Iraq after the Iraq War. And part of me says, well, we won the war. Why wouldn't the people who are pro-West, why wouldn't we have wanted them to stay in Iraq and help rebuild the country? Why would we take out 65,000 of the best people? In this situation, there's not really a choice. Those 65,000 people, or the hundreds of thousands of people, are stranded. But at the same time, I think we have to go to first causes as to what caused it in the first place, and try not to, I mean, at least learn from the experience and not throw gasoline on these wars and try to, but what to do in the immediate aftermath. I mean, some of the 65,000 that came from Iraq actually were trying to buy Stinger missiles in my hometown in Kentucky. So we do have to be wary of some of the threat that comes from mass migration.
And that's what this gentleman who spoke at Trump's rally and talked about the president being Muslim, and that's, you know, that's what he was talking about, is the danger from that. Should Donald Trump have said anything?
Well, I don't think, you know, we shouldn't question the president's faith, and I think that's kind of crazy, and if someone does, we should, I think, rebuke that. But getting back to sort of this mass migration, there was an article about some of the people coming in, and they listed a 19-year-old boy from Afghanistan, and his only paperwork was a Hungarian political asylum. He had no other paperwork, no passport. So I think it would be foolish to say there's no danger, I mean, from mass migration, and so we need to be very wary of that. And I think people who visit our country on student visas, I'm not for ending it, but I am for really understanding who's coming to visit our country before they come.
You know, this issue has led to Ben Carson said on Meet the Press that he would not feel comfortable if a Muslim was president. What do you make of that?
Well, I think it's not so much what religion you are, it's what you stand for. But I don't think that we're really anywhere near that, probably that happening, because they're a small minority in our population. But I think the hard part is while we are a very pluralistic society and we're open to all religions, more free than any other country, the problem we have is the people who've been attacking us have been all of one religion, and it's hard to separate that. And so I understand people saying, oh my goodness, you know,
would you have a problem? Would you have a problem with the Muslim president, though?
I try to see that as a separate thing, someone's religion, but I just think that it's hard for us. We were attacked by people who were all Muslim. I think it's really incumbent, and this is what I've been saying all along, civilized Islam needs to step up in a bigger way and say this doesn't represent us. I know they do, but I don't hear enough of it. I need to hear more of it. And I frankly think that Saudi Arabia has often stoked the flames of radical Islam instead of trying to be helpful.
So you wouldn't have a problem with that. Let me ask you about this debate over Planned Parenthood. And Carol Tobias, who's the president of the National Right to Life, has said that while nobody wants to defund Planned Parenthood more than her organization, that threatening a government shutdown actually hurts the cause. What do you think of that argument?
I think we're missing sort of the bigger picture on everything, not just Planned Parenthood. We borrow $1 million a minute. So if you do a continuing resolution, you're acknowledging that the government's broken, but you're going to vote to continue spending money at a rate that is unsustainable. So it's not just Planned Parenthood, it's everything. So I think we need to flip the tables. Everybody's saying, oh, we have to have 60 votes to defund Planned Parenthood. We should be saying the opposite. We need 60 votes to fund Planned Parenthood. We need 60 votes to fund everything in government, and we need to start from scratch, which means, yes, we need to hold the line, and I'm for saying, let's put hundreds, if not thousands, of restrictions on all the spending. See, that's how Congress should assert themselves. We have a passive Congress that has basically abdicated their role vis-a-vis the president, and that's a real problem. So I would hold the line. If I were in charge of Congress, I would put forward spending, and I would say, this is what it is, and if Democrats don't vote for it, then Democrats would be shutting down government.
Whose fault is it that Congress doesn't act, and particularly Republicans, act in the way you'd like?
Congress has been abdicating its role for probably 100 years, so it goes back probably to the time of Woodrow Wilson. It's gotten worse, and it's twofold. One, President Obama is frustrated because he can't get anything passed because it's a Republican Congress, so he grabs more and more power. But Congress lets him do it, and it's because we don't pass any of the appropriation bills. It's been 40 years since we've passed all of the appropriation bills. That's our job, and the one reason I won't vote for any continuing resolution, period, I won't vote for any of them. It's not the way we should do business, and nothing gets fixed. If you vote for a continuing resolution, you're voting for the status quo.
What's your guess? Do you think the government shuts down?
I hope that it doesn't continue on without reform, and that's a different way of putting it. But I would put forward spending bills, and I would say to the Democrats, you either vote for them or you shut down government or you come and negotiate with us. Right now, there's no negotiation because we just acknowledge, oh, we don't have 60 votes to stop any funding, but it's our job, and the American people, particularly Republicans, you wonder why outsiders are doing well in the polls? It's because the Republicans in Washington are doing nothing to rein in spending on anything.
Final question. As I talked about with Secretary Clinton, there's a big appetite for outsiders. That used to be what they said about you when you came in.
Oh, they still do. You just have to listen. They still do.
But the polls, at least at the moment, for this snapshot in time, seem to like other kinds of outsiders.
Right.
What do you think accounts for that? Is senator a dirty word?
Well, you know, I ran for office because I was unhappy about Washington, and I still am. The more I see of Washington, the more unhappy I am of how things are dysfunctional and don't work. I'm a huge proponent of term limits. I would throw everybody out, myself included. I'm serious. I think we need to start afresh periodically, and I think 12 years is more than enough time in the Senate, 12 years is more than enough time in the House, and I would think you would get more turnover. The status quo remains because the same people remain decade after decade, and I think sometimes they hearken back to an electorate that elected them in 1980 or 1976. That's not today's electorate, and they haven't kept up with the times. The people, the public, are about a decade ahead of government, but you need more turnover in government, and right now people are upset and unhappy, and rightly so, and I'm one of them.
All right, Senator Rand Paul, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with our panel. Stay with us.